What's up, ladies and gents in Cyberland? So today I am coming back with another Linkin Park review, and this one is also, I wouldn't say controversial. Controversial is a really big word. I would just say it was the beginning of where you were going to have Linkin Park fans splinter in different directions, if that's the best way to put it. So we are, yeah. So the album is Minutes to Midnight. So with Minutes to Midnight, I think what had happened with the band at this point is they didn't want to be typecast or pigeonholed into the whole nu metal genre. They wanted to branch out and do different things. They didn't want to just be another hybrid theory, like Hybrid Theory Meteor, and then Minutes to Midnight is just like Hybrid Theory and Meteor. So they went in different directions. We had acoustics on this album. We also had the first intro on this album. The other thing that we didn't have a lot of, or we really didn't have any at all, was Mike rapping on this album, whereas he did the first two albums. We also had more Chester doing more of the vocals, while Mike did have rapping, but it was only on 2 songs. However, the one thing we did have, which was different, was Mike actually sang a track. And some people like it, some people don't. I neither didn't like it or I didn't hate it. And I'm really happy that Mike did do the song, because moving forward, when he had singing parts in songs, it was really if he hadn't done this song, he wouldn't have been able to do the. You got to start somewhere, and I'm glad that he did it. My only thing that I wish had been included on this album was No Roads Left. That is technically a B-side. However, I felt that should have been on the album, because for the song he did sing, it was just with a cello kind of sound. There wasn't really anything else going on in the song. And I feel No Roads Left is a rock song, and having him sing that, I think that probably would have done him more justice at the time, with people being okay with him doing some type of singing as opposed to just rapping. So it was interesting I felt that should have been part of the album. When I first heard Minutes to Midnight, well, actually the first song I heard was What I've Done, and at that point I loved it. I also liked the fact that Brad had incorporated a solo into the album, into the song, because at this point they didn't have solos at all yet. So I was glad to hear that. And then when I actually watched the making of the album, I was like, okay, it was interesting to see different retrospects of the members and what they were trying to craft and the mindset. And before that, they had mentioned that when they did albums, they had already recorded the music and the lyrics came later. And then with Rick Rubin, he told them to do the lyrics first and then do the music. So it was interesting to see them change into a different approach. Also, the lyricism was just as good to me as the first 2 albums. However, this was a period where when I was already, I think I had just graduated, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, let me see. When did Minutes to Midnight come out? Oh yeah, I was actually not too far from actually being a father, actually. Now that we talk about it. And Minutes to Midnight was just it wasn't a bad album. It wasn't a great album. It was kind of like, it was a weird place for me with the band. I didn't dislike, I know a lot of people fell off with the band at this point. They hated it. They didn't like that it didn't have the whole other 2 album sound to it. And I totally get that. I totally get that, because it wasn't those 2 albums. It was, not only was it a different album, it was almost like they completely took every element from the first 2 albums and just said, trash. Like, anything that sounds like this, trash. There was one song that people were excited for, because when they heard it, they felt the album's going to be like that, and it wasn't. It's called a song called QWERTY. I just call it Lies. However, when I heard that, I was like, what the? And then we realized, oh, they didn't want that element at all in this album, and I get it. For my rating of this album, I would give it 4. I would give it 4.5 out of 5 yes sirs. The reason why I wouldn't give it a 5 is because Mike. If there had been some tracks with Mike rapping on it as opposed to just Bleed It Out and Hands Held High, I probably would have given it a better review. I do feel that was extremely lacking in this album, and the guitars were there, the distortion was there. That wasn't the problem. It was just like Linkin Park is Mike and Chester and Phoenix and Brad and Joe and Joe. Joe wasn't really anywhere either. It was kind of like, if he was there, it wasn't his distinct sound. It just, it was lacking. It wasn't there, and I think that really is the biggest issues I have with Minutes to Midnight. It's still a great album. I just feel like it was missing those elements. If those elements had been in there, I think the album would have been a lot better. It was just a weird time to be a fan of Linkin Park. It was kind of like, it was the time where you had fans go in 2 different directions. And to this day, it's during this album, and especially Thousand Suns, you have people splinter off. You have people that will, and I'll get to that later, but I'll discuss it, but this was where the fans really splintered off, where you have only Hybrid Theory and Meteora. Oh, that's Linkin Park, that's it. Everything else is trash. And you have other fans that's like, they only like the later stuff, but they don't like the stuff when the band started out. And then you have fans like me who like almost everything. And then you have some fans who only like the electronic side and not any of the guitar stuff. So it's really interesting. So with that being said, my top 5 tracks is, of course, Given Up. Given Up, when I heard that, I was like, I only heard a clip, and I was like, this is going to be my favorite song, hands down. What I've Done, Bleed It Out, In Pieces, and Leave Out All the Rest. I always felt when I heard What I've Done, and maybe it's interpreted differently now, but I always felt when I listened to that song, it was almost the band saying, we're shedding off everything we've done before with the first 2 albums and we're going in a different direction. To me, I just felt like that's what the song encompassed, and the lyrics and the playing. The other highlight of the album, it's not one of my favorites, it's not even one of my top 5 songs, it's a song I listen to, but I can respect the band for releasing it, is The Little Things You Give Away. I felt that was really commendable for them to release something like that, because this was during the time of what had happened with the Hurricane Katrina incident. So it was interesting to see that. And then the other commendable thing is Mike taking a step and trying something different with trying to encompass singing into the album on his part. And again, I'm glad, even though the song isn't the greatest, I'm glad that he did that, because what came forward because of him doing that. So with that being said, we will cue the music.
I don't know what to take. Thought I was focused, but I'm scared. I'm not